Hi everyone. This is Claire from Susan's family. Today I'll teach you how to make a floral curtain tea bag, the winter jasmine version. For this electronic tutorial, you can search for Susan's family to view it. This tea bag is divided into the base piece, flower branches, and accessories sections. Start by making the base piece, then create and attach the flower branches, finally, add the accessories. Let's start by making the base piece. Take a look at the finished product. First, cut the mesh board, then embroider the pattern on the mesh board. After completing it, crochet the decorative elements. In practice, if you need to make two tea bags, the patterns on both base pieces should be identical. Please watch as I demonstrate the specific making method. Take out the mesh board. Match each hole on the mesh board to one grid. Refer to the pattern chart, and count the number of grids corresponding to the base piece. Note that the actual length of the base piece is not fixed. You can adjust it according to the real situation, following the instructions on the diagram. Then cut along the lines of the mesh board. Pay attention when cutting, and make sure there are no jagged edges. If there are any jagged edges after cutting, you can trim them to make them even. Ensure the edges are smooth. My sample here has already been cut. The sample mesh board has fewer grid squares, so it's not for reference. Next, we'll embroider the pattern. This will require two different colors for embroidery. Let's start with color 1. Cut about 2 meters of the corresponding yarn and thread it into the darning needle. The color scheme for my sample is random. For specific yarn and color choices, please refer to the chart. Align the yarn tails. Use 2 strands of yarn together to embroider. Note, when embroidering, the length of the yarn after folding in half should not exceed 1 meter. If it's too long, it will be inconvenient for embroidering. If it's too short, you'll need to join yarn frequently. Take out the grid board. Use the side of the grid board that protrudes upward as the right side. The flatter side is considered the wrong side. When embroidering, keep the right side of the grid board facing you. Embroider the first row of segments from right to left. First, locate the 4th row from the top. Find the 3rd chain space on the right side. Draw through. Leave a little yarn tail at the end. Then insert from the adjacent position on the left below. Which is the 4th chain space in the 5th row? Slightly tighten. Pay attention not to make the yarn too tight, and don't twist it. Keep the texture neat. Try to cover the grid board underneath as much as possible. That's how you embroider one segment. The corresponding color segments on the chart match up with the embroidered stitches here. The squares where the ends of the segment are located are the insertion points. Continue by coming out from the left side, in the next chain space of the 5th row. Exit from the adjacent chain space on the left side. Be sure to wrap the starting position's yarn tail inside. Then skip one column. At the top right corner, for this line segment, insert into the adjacent hole above it. Slightly tighten. Another segment of color 1 is completed. Next, draw through the hole above. For the second segment, at its bottom left, insert into the adjacent chain space on the left side. Slightly tighten. Follow these steps. Within the 4 rows of chain spaces, embroider 2 more line segments of color 1 parallel to the existing ones. The threading order for these segments can be adjusted according to your preference. Keep the segments neat and evenly spaced. Just cover the grid plate. After completing, skip one segment's position. Then embroider 3 more segments of color 1. Move downward. For every 3 segments of color 1, skip 1 segment's position. Continue until you reach the first 3 columns of holes on the left side. During the embroidering process, if the yarn tail isn't long enough, you can secure it on the wrong side by picking up the embroidered tail. Remove the needle. Pick up the new yarn and continue embroidering downward. First, secure the yarn tail on the wrong side. Then continue embroidering downward following the pattern. Now we've reached this position. Skip 1 segment's position again. Exit from the hole above. Skip 1 hole. Insert into the hole in row 4. Then draw through the hole above. Insert into the adjacent hole at the top right. Gently tighten. That's it for line 1 of this row. Next, if there's still some yarn tail left, embroider the second segment symmetrically. Continue downward using this method. Refer to the chart. Embroider the remaining 3 segments. Pay attention to maintaining symmetrical directions for adjacent rows. After everything is completed, weave the yarn tail into the loops on the wrong side. Pull tight. Leave a little yarn tail and cut off. Next, cut 2 meters of color 2. Thread it through the sewing needle. Similarly, embroider using 2 strands combined. First, pick up the thread on the backside, and sew a bit to secure. Then, from the position where color 1 was skipped at the front, embroider the corresponding segment. After completing it, a pattern like this will be formed on the grid board. Next, embroider the edge. Cut about 2 meters of color 1. Use 2 strands combined for embroidering. First, sew a few stitches on the wrong side of the base piece. Secure the yarn tail well. Then, start from any position. Exit through the hole at the edge of the pattern. Then come out again from the adjacent hole. Moving downward. Repeat the method of threading the yarn from back to front. Continue until you finish embroidering this side. When you reach the corner position, you can pick up an adjacent hole, and sew a few stitches first. Then pick up the corner hole, and sew a few more stitches. This will cover the grid board at the corner position. Continue downward following this method, after finishing this round. When everything is completed, sew a few stitches on the wrong side to secure it in place. This completes the edge. Next, we will crochet the decoration. Take out the gold yarn. and the corresponding hook size. For specific sizes, please refer to the paper chart. Place the base piece with the right side towards you. Insert the hook into any hole along the outer edge of the pattern. Draw the yarn through. Leave a section of tail at the back. Then insert into the adjacent hole on the left side. Pull the yarn through. And draw through all the loops on the hook in one go. One slip stitch is now completed. Continue crocheting slip stitches following this method. When you reach the corner position, simply follow along the outer edge of the pattern and pick up the next hole to crochet. Crochet all the way down to finish this round. Once everything is completed, leave a 10 cm tail and cut the yarn. Thread the yarn tail into a sewing needle. Insert it through the first slip stitch chain. Then pass it through the middle of the last chain. Tie the beginning and ending tails with a double knot. This decoration is now finished. Everyone, take a look. This is what the completed sample base piece looks like. Next, we will make and attach the flower branches, including the flowers, leaves, and decorations. Let's start by making the flowers. Take a look at the finished product. There are 3 different sizes of flowers. The large flowers consist of 1 large petal and 1 small petal. The small and medium flowers each correspond to 1 small petal and 1 medium petal. First, crochet the corresponding petals separately, then attach the pistil, and finally assemble the flower. The crocheting method for the petals is similar. All of them use the magic ring technique to start. Work the petals using the Afghan stitch. Several crochet stitches will be applicated, and they are all marked on the chart, so I won't go over them one by one here. I'll take the medium petal as an example, and demonstrate the method for crocheting petals. Start with an adjustable magic ring. Then work the first round. Begin with a chain stitch as the turning chain for single crochet. Note that the turning chain does not count as a stitch. Then pick up the loops in the ring and work 6 single crochets. After completing the 6 stitches, tighten the yarn tail of the magic ring. This will close the ring properly. Then work 1 slip stitch into the first stitch. Work 1 slip stitch. Pull tight. The first round is complete. Next, we will crochet the petals. Start with 5 chain stitches. Now begin the first row. Pay attention. Each row consists of TSS and RP. Here, the loop on the hook does not count as one stitch. Start with a knit stitch. Pick the back ridge of the last chain stitch. Yarn over, draw the yarn through. There will be 2 loops on your hook. This means you've picked up 1 stitch. Continue by picking the back ridge of the adjacent chain stitch on the left. Yarn over, draw the yarn through. 2 stitches. Repeat this process. Continue picking up stitches. Pay attention not to twist the chain stitches. 3 stitches. 4 stitches. Now we've reached the position of the first chain stitch. Similarly, pick up the back ridge and crochet 5 stitches. Then pick up the first stitch of the next round, which is the insertion point of the slip stitch. Crochet 1 knit stitch. 6 stitches. The first row of forward knit stitches is now complete. Start working RP. For the first stitch, work a RP2 tog. Yarn over, draw the yarn through the first 2 loops on your hook. This decrease of 2 stitches into 1 is now done. Then continue with the RP. Yarn over, draw the yarn through the first 2 loops on your hook. Repeat this process. Wrap the yarn one after another. Pull through the 2 loops on your hook. Leaving 1 loop on the hook. The RP is now complete. Everyone look. This is what the first row of the petals looks like when finished. Continue crocheting the second row of petals. This row requires increasing stitches. The loop on your hook doesn't count as 1 stitch. Start with 1 chain stitch. Then pick up the back ridge of this chain stitch. Crochet 1 stitch moving forward. This adds 1 stitch. Continue picking the inside of the adjacent braid on the left, which is the strand above like this one. Pick up 1 stitch. This is the second stitch. Follow this method. Pick from the left side. Choose the adjacent inside loop. After picking the last inside loop, then pick the first stitch of the previous round. Pick up 1 stitch. Then work backward. For the first stitch, crochet a RP2 tog. Yarn over, draw the yarn through the first 2 loops on the hook. Slightly tighten it. Continue crocheting backward. Yarn over one after another. Pull through both loops on your hook until you finish this row. Leaving 1 loop on the hook. Everyone, take a look. The second row of the petal is now completed. Move on to the third row of the petal. The first stitch is the symbol for a slip stitch. Pick up the back ridge of the braid below. Work 1 slip stitch. This way, you decrease by 1 stitch. Continue picking up the remaining front loops. After completing it, work another slip stitch from the same single crochet stitch. Then crochet backward. Yarn over, draw the yarn through the first 2 loops on the hook. Continue crocheting backward, yarn over on after another. Pull through both loops on your hook until there is one loop remaining on the hook. The third row is now completed. For the fourth row, work slip stitches. Pick up the front loop of the chain braid below. One stitch corresponds to one stitch. Make 5 slip stitches. After finishing, go back to the previous round. Pick the adjacent stitch on the left. Work 1 slip stitch to join. Tighten it slightly. The fourth row is now finished. This petal is now crocheted. I'll demonstrate another petal for you. Start with 5 chain stitches. Begin from the last chain stitch. Pick up the back ridge and work 5 TSS. Then pick 1 stitch from the bottom single crochet stitch. Work a decrease. Yarn over sequentially. Pull through 2 loops on the hook. Continue until there is only 1 loop left on the hook. The first row is now done. Move on to the second row. Start with 1 chain stitch. Pick up 1 stitch from the back ridge of the chain braid. From below, pick up the back ridge of the adjacent stitch on the left. Then work RP. The second row is now done. For the third row, start by picking up the back ridge from below. Work 1 slip stitch. Then pick up the back ridge from the adjacent braid on the left. Finally, continue to pick up 1 more stitch from this stitch. Then work RP. The third row is now done. For the fourth row, pick up the back ridge. Correspondingly, work 5 slip stitches. After completing it, pick up the left stitch and work 1 slip stitch to join. Pull tight. The fourth row is now done. Another petal is now crocheted. Continue downward following this method, and crochet the remaining 4 petals. Once everything is completed, pick up the first stitch and join with a slip stitch. Pull tight. Crochet one more chain stitch to secure. Leave a tail of about 30 centimeters and cut the yarn. Thread the starting tail into a sewing needle. Weave in the ends on the wrong side of the piece. You can work a few extra stitches if needed, then trim off the excess. The medium petal is now done. The crochet method for small petals and large petals is similar to the medium petals, but the number of stitches differs. Refer to the previous demonstration and follow the pattern to crochet them. Next, I'll use these two samples to demonstrate the assembly method for the flowers. Let's start by assembling the large flower. The types of petals on the sample are random. This is just a demonstration of the method. Take about 6 pistils. Fold them in half. And insert them into the center of a small petal from the right side. You can use a crochet hook to assist. Then continue to insert it into the center of a large petal. Pay attention that all petals should be right side facing up. Adjust the position of the petals so that each layer of petals is roughly aligned. Pull out 2 strands from the reserved yarn tail of the small petal. Thread the remaining tails onto the sewing needle. Sew a few stitches at the center to secure it. While sewing, make sure to include the pistil. Firmly sew the pistil in this position. After completing Tidy up the yarn tails on the backside of the flower. Neaten the pistil. This completes the assembly of one large blossom. Next, sew seed beads into the center of the flower. Thread the 2 strands through a beading needle. Exit from any position in the first round of stitches, at the flower's center. Slightly tighten it, then thread about 15 seed beads. Afterwards, take the string of seed beads and wrap it around the central pistil in one circle. Continue by threading back into the position of the yarn tail. Then, along this circle of beads, choose a few points to sew and secure them firmly. After completing, on the outer edge of the beads, select a few points and sew one seed bead at each point. This will make the flower center look fuller. The exact quantity for sewing is not fixed. Everyone can sew according to their own preference. After completing, tie a double knot on the wrong side. Weave in the ends to hide them. The seed beads for the flower center are now done. For small flowers, and medium-sized flowers. Simply attach the pistil to the middle of the corresponding petals, then sew seed beads around the pistil. Everyone can assemble them on their own. Up to this point, the instructions for making the flowers are now complete. Next, we will crochet the leaves. Let's take a look at the finished product. There are two sizes of leaves, large and small. The crocheting method is similar. The difference is in the number of stitches and rows. Both use a chain stitch to start. Crochet around the chain stitch. When crocheting, you need to wrap in a thin wire. The new stitches used include single crochet increase, half double crochet and double crochet. Next, I will use the smaller leaf as an example. Let me demonstrate the specific crocheting method. First, we start with a chain stitch. Hold the yarn with your left hand. Hold the hook with your right hand. Start by making a slip knot. This knot does not count as a stitch. Slightly tighten it. Now, start crocheting chain stitches. 1, 2. Continue chaining until you reach the required number of stitches. Refer to the chart for the exact stitch count. That's how you complete the beginning chain. Next, we'll work on the first round. Take out a piece of thin wire. First, make one chain stitch to start. Insert the hook into the top of the second chain from the hook. Crochet 1 single crochet increase, that is, crochet 2 single crochets in this position. As you work, leave about 5 centimeters of the thin wire. Place it above the hook and enclose it. Then insert the hook into the top of the chain on the left side. Work 1/2 double crochet, corresponding to each stitch. Crochet 3 double crochets. Then 2 half double crochets. And 1 single crochet. In the last chain position, make 2 slip stitches. The slip stitches here don't need to be pulled too tight. When crocheting the second stitch, place the starting yarn tail below the hook. Then pick up from the left side. The remaining 2 strands of the chain braid, and work 1 single crochet. Gently tighten the thin wire, so that at the tip of the leaf, the thin wire is hidden inside the fabric piece. This makes the fabric more aesthetically pleasing. Continue downward with 2 half double crochets. When crocheting, pay attention to wrapping the starting yarn tail. Work 3 double crochets. And 1 half double crochet. At this last chain stitch position, work 1 single crochet increase. Then pick up the first stitch on the left side. And work 1 slip stitch to join. Tighten it. Then work 1 chain stitch to secure. Leave a yarn tail of about 15 centimeters and cut the yarn. Leave about 5 centimeters of thin wire at the end and cut it off. The starting yarn tail has already been secured partially, so you can cut it directly. Wrap the reserved yarn tail around the thin wire. Making it dense and tight. Wrap for about 2 centimeters. Then pass the yarn tail through the middle of the wire. Pull tight. And the small leaf is done. The crocheting method for the large leaf is as follows, similar to the small leaf, but with a different number of stitches. Start with a chain stitch, then crochet the corresponding stitches around the chain. Wrap the thin wire as you crochet along the edge. Refer to the previous demonstration for guidance, and follow the chart to complete them. After finishing, leave about 15 centimeters of yarn tail, and about 5 centimeters of thin wire. Then use the reserved yarn tail. Wrap for about 1 centimeter or so, that's enough. Everyone, take a look. This is what the large leaf looks like when it's completed. Continue in the same way, and crochet the corresponding number of leaves as needed. Next, we'll assemble the branches. Take one small leaf and 2 large leaves. Align the leaves with their right sides facing the same direction. Place the small leaf in the middle. The large leaves are on both sides below the small leaf. The ending position of the wrapping should be roughly aligned. Gather all the wires together. Smooth them out along with the yarn tails after tidying up. Use one of the longer tails to wrap around the thin wire. Leave the remaining 2 tails inside. Start by wrapping tightly at the beginning. Wrap for a certain distance downward. Pass the tail through the wire from underneath. Pull tight. This branch is now finished. Next, create the decorations. Let's take a look at the finished product. It consists of bead branches and shell stitches. Please watch as I demonstrate the detailed making method. First, we'll make the bead branch. Cut about 40 centimeters of thin wire. Insert 1 seed bead. Fold it in half. Place the seed bead in the middle of the wire. Slightly tighten it. Then insert a water drop bead. Mindful to insert it from the wider side. Leave about 1 centimeter below. Tighten it. Then, on either one of the wires, insert a yellow pearl. Leave about 1 centimeter underneath. Fold it in half, tighten it. This way, you've made a pearl branch. Next, take the 2 thin wires and twist them together for a short distance downward. Then, on this longer thin wire, insert a white pearl. Make another branch. Leave about 0.5 centimeters below. Continue combining the 2 thin wires. Twist them downward for about 1 centimeter. Follow the same method. Make another pearl branch. Leave about 1 centimeter below. After completing it, combine the 2 thin wires and tighten the bottom part. This branch is now done. Set it aside for later use. Then take another piece of thin wire, about 40 centimeters long. Follow the same method. Refer to the diagram for guidance. Make another branch. My sample is already done. Place these 2 branches together. Twist them downward for a certain distance. Then choose a longer piece of thin wire. Insert a water drop bead. Remember to insert it from the narrower end. Then insert a seed bead. After that, thread back through the water drop bead. Adjust it a little. Leave about 2 centimeters at the bottom. Tighten it. One water drop bead side branch is completed. Continue to combine the thin wires. Twist downward for about 0.5 centimeters. Make a purl side branch. Leave about 2 centimeters at the bottom. After everything is done, twist the remaining part of the thin wire tightly. Leave a length of about 1 centimeter and then cut off. This completes the main trunk of the purl branch. Next, take out the corresponding contrasting color yarn. Wrap the yarn around the thin wire. After everything is done, thread the yarn tail between the wires. Pull tight to secure it. Adjust the shape of the branch a little. Leave a segment of the tail end. Cut off the excess part. This completes the bead branch. Next, make the shell stitch flower. Cut a piece of thin wire about 20 centimeters long. Insert a seed bead. Fold it in half. Tighten below. Insert a shell stitch. Note that the indented side should face up. Tighten again for a short distance below. Insert an acrylic leaf. Continue tightening for another short distance below. Then insert another acrylic leaf. Tighten the wire below. Next, cut about 30 centimeters of the corresponding contrasting color yarn. Pull out 4 strands of the yarn. Take the ends of the separated strands, and wrap them around the thin wire underneath the shell stitch flower. After wrapping an appropriate length, insert the yarn tail into the wire. Pull tight and secure it in place. Leave a short length of the thin wire before cutting it off. This completes the shell stitch flower. Next, we'll assemble everything. Let's take a look at the finished product. Sew all the flower branches to the center of the base piece. The flowers are arranged in a pin-shaped pattern. Small flowers are on the top. Large flowers are on the left side. Medium-sized flowers are on the right side. Below the large flower, sew the branch and the shell stitch. Underneath the medium flower, attach a bead-decorated branch and a large leaf. Please watch as I demonstrate the exact sewing technique. I'll use these small samples to show the sewing method. The small sample has fewer flower branches. It's just for demonstrating the method. After confirming the position of each part, start by sewing the branch. Here, you can tighten the excess thin wire. Insert from the corresponding position through to the wrong side of the base piece. Press tightly. Then take the previously left yarn tail here. Choose a longer one and thread it through the sewing needle. Sew and secure the branch at this position. The remaining tails can be tucked under on the wrong side of the base piece. Hide the yarn tails. Trim off any excess. Following the same method, attach the shell stitch branches. Use the reserved yarn tail to sew it securely. Tie a double knot to fasten. After completing, pick up the loops on the wrong side of the flower and sew the flower onto the corresponding position. The sewing method is not fixed. Pay attention that the yarn tails should not show on the right side of the flower. After securing it firmly, tie a double knot on the wrong side of the base piece. Weave in the ends. Everyone, take a look. This is what the sample flower branch looks like after assembly is completed. Now let's add accessories, including buttons, buttonholes, and lining. Start by attaching the buttonholes and buttons. Finally, sew on the lining. Please watch as I demonstrate the specific making method. I'll use this sample for the demonstration. Let me demonstrate the method for making the buttonhole. The motifs on the sample base piece are embroidered randomly. The flower branches have not been sewn on. I will only demonstrate the technique. You need to crochet the buttonhole using 2 strands of yarn held together. Take a look. There is 1 yarn tail at both the center and the outside of the yarn ball. You can use these 2 yarn tails together to crochet. The buttonhole should be attached in the middle of one of the short sides. Make sure the right side of the base piece is facing you. Place the side where you want to install the buttonhole facing up. Locate the topmost row. Find the 2 middle chain spaces. Insert the hook into the right chain space. Draw the yarn through. Adjust the loop size slightly. Leave a tail on the wrong side. Then crochet 14 chain stitches. Once done, join with a slip stitch in the adjacent hole on the left. Leave a yarn tail of about 10 centimeters and cut the yarn. Tuck the yarn tail to the wrong side at the slip stitch position. Tie the ends of the yarn tails with a double knot. Hide the knots on the wrong side of the base piece. This completes the button loop. Next, sew on the button. Attach the button to the middle position of the other end of the base piece. This is the center of the decorative stripe. Cut a piece of sewing thread. Insert it into the needle. You can use 2 strands of thread for sewing. The sewing method is not fixed. Just make sure to sew securely at this position. After completing, take the beginning and ending thread tails, and tie a double knot on the wrong side. Leave a little yarn tail and cut off. That finishes sewing the button. Next, we'll make the lining. Since there's only one piece of lining fabric, everyone can watch the demonstrate first. Then you can proceed with making it. Place the base piece flat on the lining fabric. Pay attention to having the smooth side of the lining fabric facing up. The right side with the nap should face down. Trace the shape onto the lining fabric along the edge of the grid board. Be mindful not to move it while drawing. You can also press it down with some heavy objects. After completing, mark a distance of 1 centimeter outside the traced lines. Cut out the lining fabric. This completes the trimming of the lining. Next, we will sew them together. Place the wrong side of the base piece against the wrong side of the lining fabric to make sewing more convenient. You can use sewing thread to roughly secure it in place. When securing, be mindful not to fasten too close to the edges, so as not to affect the stitching of the lining. I've already secured this part in advance. Now, take the sewing thread and insert it into a needle with an eye. Start sewing from any position. Fold the lining edge backward. Pull the lining slightly taut to prevent it from shrinking or wrinkling. After folding, the edge of the lining should be about TWO'/THREE millimeters away from the edge of the grid board. Begin on the wrong side of the base piece. at the yarn loops along the edge. Sew a few stitches to secure it. Then, draw the thread out from the edge of the lining. Note: the lining must lay flat, and adhere closely to the grid board, or be slightly taut. It must not be too loose. Press the folded lining firmly into place. Insert the thread into the corresponding line segment at the edge. Exit the segment after skipping a short distance. Be sure not to sew through to the right side. Pull tight. Then, draw the thread out from the edge of the lining. Pull tight. Continue by inserting it again. Draw out. When drawing out, exit through both the segment and the edge of the lining. Try not to expose too much of the sewing marks. Repeat this process to continue sewing downward. The gaps in the sewing on the sample swatch are wider here. When you sew in practice, you can make the stitches tighter. When you reach the corner, fold the lining fabric a bit. And continue sewing. If the thread runs short midway, tie a double knot on the segment. Then take another piece of yarn and continue sewing. The color changes from switching colors will be hidden inside the lining. Finally, tie off with a knot. Weave in the ends. You can remove the securing threads. This completes the sewing of the lining. Up to this point, the entire tutorial for this curtain tie is now complete. If you have any questions during the process, don't hesitate to reach us via our website, Susan's Family, supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next episode.